There's a lot of people watching. Hello, hello to people watching. Okay, guys, well, I'm just gonna jump into it because there's a lot of people watching already. Please don't go anywhere. Please share and follow. So, if you guys don't know, I work as a spiritualist and occultist, and I've encountered a lot of things in counseling people with their problems because, as you guys know, when do people go to an occultist? Well, it's likely when they're having trouble in their life and their marriages and their relationships. They just went through a horrible breakup and they're severely depressed. And I also have had my own personal experiences in relationships prior to me actually working in spirituality, and taught myself a thing or two when it pertains to narcissism and narcissistic abuse. And I am a survivor narcissistic abuse. And I say survivor because narcissistic abuse can be very destructive to people when you're in the throes of it, when you're in the aftermath of it, because people become severely depressed. Okay, so really, if you guys already have mental health issues, you guys are more, capable of having more severe effects of narcissistic abuse. So I wanted to talk about like how you guys could spot narcissistic partners, especially if you guys are dating and getting to know people, or even in the workplace. But I'm gonna talk about specific red flags that you guys could see in romantic partners, especially if you guys are still getting to know people. And again, narcissistic personality disorder is something that has to be diagnosed by a professional, but everyone has narcissistic personality traits and everyone is on a spectrum. Like, let's say, I'm not sure if the spectrum is actually numbered, but I've taken a test myself where I was like, I'm going to take this test to see if I have narcissistic personality traits, and I scored low or something like that. But if you score high, then you're probably in the spectrum of having the personality disorder. And you guys could find tests online if you guys want to test yourself. But okay, so the reason why I'm talking about this today is because I know one girl specifically who I know was getting cheated on, and I went to her because I told her like, hey, I dated the same person during the time period that you guys were together, and he's cheating on you, and I know you seem invested because I saw some things online, right? So I told her I just wanted to let you know because he's been cheating on you. And then she was all shocked, right? So apparently they moved in together and he's been trying to get her pregnant. So one of the first things that you guys will notice of people with possible narcissistic NPD or personality traits is that they're usually charming by nature. Like, maybe they know how to talk to people, and like, you might really like them. Like, you might think they're funny at first or something, and maybe they try to be extra charming, especially if you're a female and you meet a guy and all of a sudden they want to be talking about marriage. And with this person in particular, I met this person months ago and he really put me off. I was like, I really don't like him because he's already joking about my mother being his mother-in-law, and he's kind of insinuating marriage. And then he did tell me like, oh, I love you, right away. So automatically when he started saying all these things, red flags started going off in my head. I'm like, yeah, like red flag, red flag. And when you even judge people by their picture, you could kind of tell like who's gonna have NPD more than likely, because it's always like they have profile pictures where they're kind of show-offy, or maybe they're taking a picture next to a luxurious car, or maybe they have pictures of themselves in luxurious settings, nothing realistic, And also this guy, when you would go to his Instagram, I don't think he was aware I was looking at his Instagram, but when I would look at his Instagram pictures, it was kind of like I would kind of vomit a little bit. Because he had like all these stupid corny quotes, like wannabe philosophical quotes underneath his pictures. And I'm like, yeah, this guy's probably a narcissist. But anyway, it was nothing serious, so automatically like I was like, really put off by this guy. Would talk to him here and there just to entertain myself. He was cute, you know, like narcissists might be cute, they might be charming. If they're not cute in the face, then they might be really charming in personality, okay? So we would talk here on and off. And so fast forward, we eventually met up like months later after I declined to meet him a couple times. Met up, you know. So he made it seem like he was single. Every time I would ask him about stuff, he would act kind of sketchy about things. And fast forward, so I did a little bit of spying and found out he had a girlfriend. I recently spoke to the girlfriend and she mentioned again, like, we are engaged. We've been together since July. So from here to July hasn't been much time. So that is another red flag, you guys, okay? When you guys are meeting narcissists, they want to progress the relationship really fast, okay? So if you think back to your most toxic and abusive relationships, you might notice a pattern where maybe they wanted to be your boyfriend, girlfriend within 3 days of meeting each other. And because you were charmed by them or whatever the case may be, you're like, okay. And then maybe even prior or after, they start telling you, I'm so in love with you, I love you. They might even start talking about a future together, having children, moving in. That's called future faking if you guys are not aware of it. So right now it's just a discussion, you guys. I'm not doing tarot questions. I'm talking about narcissistic abuse so that way people are aware of it, because it just baffles me that so many people are still not aware of it despite how much information is out there. Oh, what else? So they try to progress the relationship really fast. They try to get you into a relationship right away. Next thing you know, they're future faking, talking about marriage and getting engaged. Maybe they do buy you a ring if they have money. A lot of narcissists, you know, build themselves up to be more than that they actually are. They could be broke and then they might say like, oh, I have a lot of money stashed away. I'm really savvy and I like to save, so I don't like to spend money. They might bullshit you guys like that also, where they might say like, oh, I have all this money stashed away. I had one guy tell me like, oh, I used to deal drugs and I saved all this money and I have like $150,000 saved up, blah 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 blah. You know, stupid shit like that. So they'll future fake. They'll try to get you into an engagement. So this girl particularly, she told me that he's been trying to get her pregnant. So again, it baffles me. Like, why are you guys not waking up to these things? Especially if you're already a mature woman. I would kind of expect younger women to be more vulnerable to narcissists and like believe them more. But if you're already at our age, like 28 and up, if you must have gone through at least one or two narcissistic relationships by now. If you haven't learned the warning signs, especially with technology nowadays and all of information that's circulating about it, and you still are clueless and you're still falling for this BS, then I don't know what to tell you, girl. Like, you guys need to wake up and like start protecting yourself, because the next thing you know, you're in the throes of a toxic relationship and you're severely depressed and you're wanting to unalive yourself because you're severely depressed and because you subjected yourself to a lot of abuse over months on end. So those are, I think, one of the major red flags. They charm you. They want to say I love you right away. They want to get you into a relationship right away. They want to move things towards marriage or engagement right away. And they want to impregnate you to baby trap you into a relationship. When two narcissistic people get together, well, I can't talk about that since I don't have experience, but I have heard of, like, obviously they would move ahead in their relationship fairly quickly because they're marrying each other. It's like they have the exact same traits, so it's like they'd probably marry each other right away. They'd probably be on social media showing, oh, what a magical and most perfect relationship we are in. Oh, we just traveled here. And then they would post all these love pictures with a bunch of corny quotes underneath saying how much I love you. I have found the love of my life. You are my true soulmate. 3 months into their relationship. And I'm sure there's people like that already out there. Maybe you guys know people who act like that online, but that's what I've seen. And it's like, I have had clients where I think they have narcissistic personality traits, and that's why I try to, like, you know, steer clear of them to try to be my friend. And I'm like, yeah, probably not, because like, you could tell because they try to, like, really act like they're the shit. And they talk bad or they talk down on other people. If you guys have relationship questions, like, oh, what do you think about this person? He did this or he told me this, then I'll tell you what I think about it. Whether if there's something sketchy there or not. So, again, narcissistic people are self serving. Toxic sisters in laws. So, toxic sister in laws are likely, well, obviously, a narcissist has to be born into a narcissistic or toxic family system. So usually if you have a toxic sister-in-law, it's because like one of the parents or both of them could be narcissistic and they've given power over the sister-in-law. Like maybe in terms of the dynamic of how they grew up. So they make her feel, they probably overindulge her. And like if you're dating the brother, then they probably underindulged him or made him feel like shit. And they make her feel like she has the power or the control. So like I did date an asshole that was a covert narcissist or a vulnerable narcissist, and he had a toxic sister. So he would always complain like, oh, my father abused me, this and that, blah, blah, blah. But I'm pretty sure the mother was also narcissistic to an extent, or toxic in whatever case it may be. But like they lack boundaries. So then they might like either, I don't know what it is in your case, but in my case, like they would show up at any time, unannounced, uninvited, and she would try to act all tough around me and shit. So they try to intimidate, like to try to control. Maybe in your case, if you guys don't get along, maybe she tries to threaten you or something. So in narcissistic or toxic family systems, people lack boundaries. Maybe they lack respect. I grew up in what I believe was a narcissistic family, so I am what is considered, again, your roles can change within family systems. So back then when I was younger, I was the invisible child. I still kind of am, but now I'm a little bit more of the black sheep because I'm calling people out on their bullshit. They don't like it. But like in my case, my sisters would try to like use anger to try to like control, and of course I'm a little rebel child, so I'm like, middle finger up, bitches. Yeah, so they could, I mean, maybe they're just undiagnosed, but people always have disorders and a lot of them don't go in for diagnosis. I have my own diagnosis, but I suffer from depression, but that's because I grew up in a fucking toxic and, you know, abusive family system. It wasn't stable. So I'm pretty sure some of my elder siblings are narcissistic, but of course they're not gonna go ask a doctor and be like, hey, can you diagnose me with something? Because they're in denial about shit. So borderline personality. I was watching Stargirl Practical Witch, or she goes by another name, Anita Serena, on YouTube, and I didn't know she was borderline. She said today, like, she's borderline. I'm like, what? Okay, so that kind of makes sense. Like, she gets a little bit emotional here and there, but yeah, I would always say, like, mental health is, like, a priority. Like, you guys should always prioritize that. So if people are causing you guys fucking trouble in your life, if they have zero boundaries, if they're disrespecting you, then that's where you guys need to cut it. Or you need to like put people on block. They say blood is thicker than water. I beg to differ. Like, no, it's not, because people want to be acting like assholes and don't take accountability for their own shit, and that's just not good. Like, you have to set the example moving forward for your own family. You have to break the cycle of abuse, and you have to recognize that within yourself. Like, you have to reflect on yourself, like, okay, why do I keep attracting narcissistic partners? Which is what I did when I broke up with my ex-fiance. I was like, you know what, I've been through 2 very, very toxic, abusive relationships. why do I keep repeating the same fucking pattern? So that's where I started researching toxic relationships, and then I ran into like Dr. Ramani, and she like said like the root of every toxic relationship is narcissistic abuse. And then I'm like, what is narcissistic abuse? And then that's where I went down the rabbit hole, and now it's so popular, like everyone talks about it. But you guys need to recognize like your own bad patterns. Like, why do you keep attracting shitty partners who just abuse you? And in hindsight, me, 2 years ago, I was not the same person. When I broke up with my ex-fiance, I would see myself talk, like old videos of myself talk, and I could just tell like I was so depressed. I I was so soft spoken. I still am soft spoken, but it's like maybe I speak with more confidence now. I could go on live and talk about shit. And but back then it was just like, damn, like he really depleted like my soul. Like you could just tell by the way I would speak. So she's NPD, yeah, maybe it's in your best interest to stay away from certain people, even though it might suck. But that's what I would recommend. But yeah, have you guys like gone through like an NPD, a narcissistic abuse relationship? Pretty sure everyone is going to be eventually go through one. Most people, I would say. I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh yeah, so I was gonna say like, so there's a relationship, a little dance that occurs between empathic people and narcissists. So again, we both grew up like in similar environments, but only one person turned out to be like an empath, the other person turned out to be a narcissist. So I think it's kind of like spiritual warfare, because when you meet a narcissist and you're in a relationship with them, it's like their primary focus is so destructive. They might not be conscious of it, but it eventually leads to that, where it's like it leads you to want to self-destruct if it gets to be super bad. Like it makes people suicidal and shit. Maybe not even suicidal, but they might turn to like self-harm. What else? I think narcissists lack a soul, and the reason why is because, you know, people have done brain scans on narcissists and they're not built like normal people. So I really think like narcissists are evil. Like they're fucking evil. They don't care about you. Like all they care about is like getting their needs met, exploiting you. So the girl that I was talking to, I could tell like maybe she doesn't trust me fully, but I've been honest with her, and I've been giving her information about her man, right? But like I already tell like she's in the middle of it, because she got invested into it really fast, so she ended up moving in with him. That just baffles me, like why would you move in with someone so fast? I mean, it's not necessarily, I mean, it's both. Like in my case, it's like, yes, my father I think is a narcissist, because he only hits you up when he needs something. He never says thank you. He acts very ungrateful. So it's like, yeah, he thinks like the world revolves around him, right? But I don't know if my mother was a narcissist, like when they met up, and she just maybe wasn't. She got so abused that she eventually suffered like a lot of mental anguish and stuff. So now she kind of emulates characteristics of narcissist, but it could be either or. I don't think it relates to just one particular person, because I've dated one narcissist and I've heard that his mother is very like careless with him, abusive. So it could just be, and then I've spoken to his father, and his father likes to act like he's very like nice to the whole world and people like him. So it can be either or. It's not necessarily like a father wound / mother wound. It could be both, or it could just be one. Or like you could have an absentee father in a child's life, but the mother could be narcissistic and abuses the child, or thinks like, oh, everything revolves around me. I have had a friend like that where I think she's borderline, or she has bipolar. but her father was absent and her mother was said to be very abusive growing up. So could be either or. It doesn't pertain to like the mother or father. I mean, in your case, it could be a father wound, but it's not going to be the case for everyone. So be very careful, you guys. People are evil. That's one thing I've learned through my spiritual journey and all the shit that I've encountered is like the world out there. Like, it could be very beautiful, but at the same time, it's just fucking evil. Like, people are fucking evil. Like, you need to protect yourself. You need to know who your friends are. Excuse me. You need to know who you're dating. And a lot of times you don't even know that, because the most sneaky type of narcissist is going to be the vulnerable one and the covert one, where they're like, boo-hoo me, I'm so... Like, I dated one. He would always like play down his accomplishments because he got a bachelor's like at 21. So I would tell him like, you should be really proud of that. Like, that's almost unheard of. Like, people would usually take a long time to get their bachelor's. I didn't have that much education, so like they tear themselves down, so like they feed off of your energy, and like so you're always like taking care of them, because it's like they need people to give a shit about them. So I don't know. I've had friends like that also. That's where I need to be careful too, because I'm empathic and people are attracted to me. And like, I've never had this issue before because I was like very much a loner. I still am. But now that I'm out here publicly speaking and doing tarot readings, like, people just want to gravitate to me sometimes, and they're kind of like energy vampires. And I've had friends that are energy vampires, and they just want you to be there babying them all the time, and I might have other things to do, or I might be burned out, and I need to take care of myself, you know? But they make it all about them all the time. So be careful, you guys. So I think that's pretty much all I'm going to talk about. I have readings to do later. If you guys want to book something private, make sure you guys head over to mariasbotanica.com. Click the top right or left menu icon and then click book now, because